very careful with those boxes. I kind of really need them because they have a lot of essential equipment for the move. Yeah, I won't be gone for long. It's just for about, I'll meet you outside. Oh, hello everyone. Don't mind meet these two guys real quick. They're just interns helping me with some moving stuff because, well, I'll announce it soon. But for now, let's get into the video. Now, going into further the niche of miscellaneous stuff that had an undeserved downfall, we're gonna go something that's quite close to me in my childhood. You see, this was a line of toys that my brother and I, back when we were wee little beans, would play a lot of. We loved these toys, we cherished them, and we had many, many good memories. I'm talking about Bionicles. Bionicles was huge back in the early 2000s. It was the toy line that basically saved Lego from going under back when they were having some financial issues. Kids around the world loved it. Parents would cry at seeing how much these things costed. But, you know, it was a toy line that a lot of people enjoyed, that even to this day, people talk about it. But around the late 2000s to early 2010s, Bionicles just kind of disappeared. Now, why is that? How come such a huge toy line was just discontinued altogether and quite seemingly never brought back? Well, we'll talk about its comeback in 2015, but we'll get there when we get there. So now, let's get into why Bionicles had an undeserved downfall. Now, as I have stated before, Bionicles was huge back in the 2000s. In fact, the first generation, Generation 1, ran from 2001 to 2010. I'm gonna get most of my stuff from the wiki, so if I get some stuff wrong, please let me know down in the comment and tell me how stupid I am and give me some good sources about Bionicles. Now, Bionicles was a unique type of toy line because, well, yes, they were basically Lego's version of action figures, which were also huge back in the day. It also had some lore, very deep lore, mind you. Set in a science fantasy universe featuring biomechanical beings, the main story depicts exploits of the Toa, heroes with elemental powers whose duty is to protect Matoran, the prime populace of their world, and reawaken their godlike guardian Matanui, the Great Spirit, who was forced into a coma by actions of his antagonist brother, Makuta. So yeah, not only did the toys have their own names and story, but they lived in this well-realized world full of deep lore that was actually marketed not only in the toy line, but also in straight-to-DVD movies, video games, and comic books, which surprisingly were created by DC, believe it or not. So yeah, they had quite the backing, and because of that, it became a huge phenomenon back in the day. Kids all around the world started loving this brand new cool little toys that had their own little story and had very, very unique designs, mind you. And what was fun about it is that you could modify these toys. It wasn't like their previous designs where it was just already a set in stone design that you couldn't really change. Bionicle actually embraced the customization and modification areas of their toy line so that kids' creativity could flourish within these toys. I remember back in my day, I'm trying to sound like an old man, but back in my day, my brother and I had these two Bionicles. He had an orange one, if I'm not mistaken, and I had a white. And we remember seeing in the back of the toy boxes that we got from these Bionicles, that they had like different versions of this same Bionicle. It was kind of like an evolution line. Like you had a small one, a medium one, and then a huge one with all these cool things. But we didn't have much money back in the day, so what we would do is we would buy a bunch of small Bionicles, and then every time we would play, we would modify our Bionicles differently. Like I remember the one that I had, I just put a bunch of blades in every single part of his body, and he just became this kind of Beyblade Bionicle that would slash through everything. And my brother had an orange one that would specialize in just, straight up hands. So you would box all the Bionicles, the evil Bionicles, in our little stories. And that was the fun part about Bionicles. You could create your own story with these pre-made toys and modify them to fit your narrative. And that's what captured the eyes of so many kids back in the day. The modification and the customization freedom that you would get with these toys. But even deeper than that, they had their own website where they would update it regularly with new lore tips. So those very, very, very hardcore fans of Bionicles would go into the website and discuss the many different lore tips, and start theorizing about what the next piece of tidbit would happen. So yeah, it was huge back in the day, and honestly it saved Lego a lot, because back in the 1990s they were not doing good at all. They were actually having a decade-long down tour back in the 1990s. This was because Lego retired many veteran designers that created their sets from the late 1970s to the mid-1990s. And they would replace them with people who didn't really have an idea of how Legos would work. So the sets that they would turn out from these brand new innovators would not sell off well at all. It was actually so bad that Lego was almost becoming bankrupt to a point. But thankfully, they created the Bionicles as a sort of last-ditch effort to save the company. And it worked. It actually boosted Lego back into this marketing giant from the toy line that to this day they still are to an extent. So how did such a huge toy line that basically pried Lego out of bankruptcy was discontinued in not even a decade-long run? Well, simply put, it was the rise of digital entertainment. Around the late 2000s and 2010 was the rise of iPhone, iPad, YouTube, all these different mediums that offered so much, like flash games that were free to access for everybody, or YouTube videos where it was just maybe, Smosh's Food Wars, I don't know when that came out. The rise of digital media is basically what killed off Bionicles, because around this time children would start getting access to that sort of digital entertainment through their new phones that were basically these innovative technologies that would have all that they needed in this just one little screen, You needed to set up an appointment, boom, it was in your iPhone. You just set it up in your iPhone. You wanted to watch a video about how to repair a sink, well, now you can watch it on YouTube or find it easily on Google. You no longer have to buy a manual for it. So it would basically overshadow physical entertainment like toys. And because of that, around the late 2000s is when Bionicles started to decline a lot. Lego, seeing this stark decline, decided to discontinue the toy lines in 2010, finish up the story there, and move on to other things. Now, there was still a following for Bionicles, so when they decided to discontinue it, of course people were sad about it. And this is the part that I didn't know about Bionicles. I thought that they discontinued it around this time and they never brought it back again. But turns out, around 2015, they tried to bring the toy line back. They even made new Bionicles around this time and a brand new series online. Unfortunately, this one did not stick well, and that is because long-time Bionicle fans criticized the story as being very simplistic and not very deep. And because this brand new generation, which was Generation 2, did not have nearly as many mediums as Generation 1 had. In fact, I'm pretty sure they only had the toy line and that online series. It couldn't really stick that much. So around that time, I think it was only about a year after the Generation 2 toy line came out, Lego once again discontinued Bionicles as pretty much being a failure, and they never once again brought the toy line ever again. Because around this time is when they started to do collaboration Lego sets, which was, Star Wars Legos, Harry Potter Legos, and Pirates of the Caribbean Legos. And those were huge financial success for Lego, because not only did they get the rights to make, Legos of huge IPs that many people loved and knew about, of course they were going to stick with that instead of their niche little original toy line that kind of fizzled out in 2010. So because of that, they decided to focus more and a lot more on collaboration Lego sets. In fact, if you go to, your local supermarket and you find a Lego toy line, guarantee you 99.99% of the Lego sets you see are collaboration sets about cars or Star Wars. Guarantee you. Or Marvel. You never know. So, yeah. Bionicles was honestly a very important part in Lego's history. It saved them from a awful financial time back in the 90s. It pushed them back into the mainstream, but because of the rise of digital entertainment, Bionicles lost its popularity with kids, so they discontinued it there. They tried to bring it back in 2015, but with the lack of reach that they had with that new line, not even a year later they discontinued it, and now they're focusing more on collaboration Lego sets. And that is all. That should be pretty much everything I basically know about Bionicles and how it got an undeserved downfall. So, with that being said, thank you guys so much for watching. I said I will announce something very soon, and we're gonna have to wait a few more days for that. Probably around Christmas time is when you'll hear about my announcement. So yeah, for the time being, I still got the last video for season 1 of Undeserved Downfall of series. I'm still trying to brainstorm on what that video will be. So yeah, and I have a music video coming up very soon as well. So keep that in mind. Have a blessed day and or night, and I'll see you all later. Goodbye.